You said hit play, and I hit play.
Now you're
Tell
on.
me that's not the play button.
You're on now.
Okay. Well, next time, say hit the power button.
So we've done 59. We've done 59 total podcasts, and we've done I don't know how many Coffee Buzz Fridays. But Vocca was the first person in the history of the MindStrong projects, Coffee Buzz, and podcast to press the wrong button.
First time ever.
No, I pressed the right button. You said press play. That's the play button. That's the
don't
power
press
button.
it. Don't press it.
Okay.
You're on live air right now.
That's fine with me.
Glad to have you, Tone. Here we
Good
go.
to be back, guys.
Here we go. Tony was on one of the podcasts months ago. He's our hype man, and he's alive and ready to go. Let's let it rip.
What is something that most people learn only after it's too late?
What do some people learn? Can you start the clock? What do some people learn only
What is
after-
something that most people learn only after it's too late?
Well, for me, it was that I should have shaved my head.
You wanna talk about it?
Mustache, kid.
I think a lot of people hold on to their hair for too long, and I was one of them.
Start the clock and let's let you talk. So this is a great moment. So Steve, when we were younger, and when looks actually shaped the way that we thought things were,
Pretty much that was the only thing that we
which
thought.
is crazy to think about. This guy used to have long side hair coming out of the hat and nothing on top. We were 22 years old.
It was flowing well out the back, though, too.
It was
You
flowing
just never
well.
saw it on the side or
Breathe,
anything.
big dog, breathe.
It was good. I thought it looked good.
Well, it didn't.
I was just trying to be nice.
So take us through the question and why that is an answer.
Say it again. I do this all the time. Say it again, please.
What is something that most people learn only after it's too late?
So what I'm saying here is more of a Winnie the Pooh style answer, right? So when I say people don't realize that they should shave their heads, what I'm saying is that nobody cares. Like if you could realize that the things that you think other people think about all day or like judge you on, or you think they go home and they go to sleep and they're like, oh, I can't believe that Steve's hair looked like that tonight. I actually thought that. Or like my job or who I dated or any of those types of things. I thought people truly cared about it, and really I wish I understood earlier that all they cared about was me and just like where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. It had nothing to do with decisions that I made that made me happy. Nobody goes home and thinks about you. They think about their life and how they can maybe benefit you,
Right.
but at the same time it's internal for them.
So what do you think outside of that in terms of life, to the question specifically, what do you think people screw up routinely that it takes them too long to figure out?
They're prisoners of their thoughts. So like you can only actually hold on to an emotion for so long, and then you're just dwelling on that emotion. So people dwell for way too long. So if you can understand how to recognize your emotions, you will literally bypass people in your life ridiculously fast, because most people can't recognize their emotions while they're in them.
How do you get out of that?
You have to actively work on it, right? You have to actively work on it. So if I have somebody who tells me, hey, you're being a jerk, and I go, no, I'm not. Hey, you're being a jerk. No, I'm not. Hey, you're being a jerk. No. Well, to them, you're being a jerk. So in some facet, you truly are. So like recognizing that and being able to step outside yourself and say, okay, what does this person see? How can I help them through that? Going back to the first thought of saying, if I should have shaved my head, I'm so in tune to thinking that you care about it that I can only think about what I perceive.
Which you look much better with a shaved head.
Appreciate that.
Much better.
You do.
He does.
We were watching that match video, though, the other day. Remember the one you guys, like the first video you made?
Oh, that was bad.
I thought your hair looked pretty good.
Yeah, but I had on basketball
But you had
shorts
on
bigger than
basketball
Juwan
shorts down to
Howard's.
your ankles. That was a tough look.
Yeah, that was a tough look. So, okay, so now with 2 minutes left, I want to take the question into a thing of what you just said. But can you, in any conversations, can you help somebody get to a level of knowing when they've gone too far? Or do you think that everybody has to figure that out on their own? Like, if you're a jerk, you're a jerk, you're a jerk. Like, do you think that anybody can bring you to that level of awareness? Or do you think that you have to come to it on your own at some point?
At some point, you have to come to it on your own, but you can have people who help you along the way get there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people can influence you, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one to decide, who am I? Am I comfortable in my own skin? And does that allow for me to identify other people's emotions and for me to unemotionally help them through that thought?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that as you get older, like conformity, right, doing what the pack does is so strong in high school. It's weird how, like, in high school it's not cool to be smart, but then in life, if you're not, like, working hard, then it's not cool to not work hard.
For sure.
You know, it's like it like flips on you tremendously. Like when you're younger, it's like tight to be like, nah, dude, I'm not studying for that test. And then and then as you get older, people aren't like, no, it's not cool, man. You know, get your work done. You know, and so I think if it's a concept that I think about a lot is why if we know that it's so important to learn a lesson, like you think, okay, well, make your bed. Well, your folks tell you to make your bed for your whole life, and then all of a sudden, why does it just some point switch and you know it's important? Just like the hair. Like, don't get rid of the hair, or just a relationship. I don't want to get rid of the relationship, don't want to get rid of the relationship, but I've known for years I need to get rid of the relationship, and then boom. Like friends, family, anybody can say, get out of that relationship. But you just can't see it. Like, it's nuts how people just don't see it.
Well, that's what I think about with you saying other people can influence you, is that, like, back in the day, if someone was like, oh, you're being a jerk, you know, you're being a jerk. But then when my mom would tell me that,
that hurts.
Okay, yeah, I must be being a jerk because Barb don't lie.
Yeah.
Barb don't lie.
Barb don't lie. Next question.
Makes good cookies, too.
Next question. So this was presented to me by Riley Schimmel. We had a good talk the other night. So the question is, what is more important, mental health or physical health?
I think mental health will lead into physical health.
Oh, Tony, go ahead
Go
there,
ahead,
Tom.
Tom. You came popping out of that.
I'm going to
Not
take
a
this
big
one
tone.
for about 10 seconds.
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so if you have good mental health, then you're going to realize that your physical lifestyle is either good or bad, right? Like, there was a span where I wasn't working out for like 6-7 months, whatever. I was looking terrible. Moved out here, got around you guys, got better mentally, MindStrong, and then we started lifting constantly, and now I feel better. Physical health.
You eating better?
I'm eating
A little bit better.
Yeah,
You drinking more water?
more water,
Getting more sleep?
more sleep.
You're starting to feel better.
Yep. I'm
So
starting to
the-
breathe better.
So, okay, just I know we're going to do it again. We're in a high input stimuli environment right now. We got a lot of movement and noise out there, so my mind is a little spacey. I apologize to people that are listening, but ask the question again.
What is more important, mental health or physical health?
Do you want me to go next on that?
Yeah.
sense? So what is more important, mental or physical health? So I think that sometimes, and I'll feed off of what Tony just said, I think too often we try to define one of the other being better than the other. And we've talked about this quite a few times on the podcast about what's the number one indicator to a successful relationship. Well, it's hard because how would you argue certain things? Like you could say, well, loyalty and honesty, like where do they different, you know, what makes more sense, communicative, integrity, all this stuff, like they're all important. So it's the same concept of this, like mental health and physical health. Well, throughout the physiology and psychology of your mind, like they work together, you know. So like Tony just said, well, for 6 months I didn't physically work out. Well, and I wasn't drinking enough water, I wasn't eating well, I wasn't sleeping, so mentally I felt like crap. Now I come here and 6 months later, my physical routines have changed, and now all of a sudden I'm actually thinking differently. So we know that eating well and working out and moving and sleeping and hydration and natural foods and that sort of stuff changes the chemistry of your brain. So therefore you would be thinking more efficiently, more positively, more effectively. Whereas now vice versa, having self-talk and positive visual cues and some sort of growth mindset also produces the excitement and the need to go to the physical actions. So it's like, I don't think that there's one or the other is more important. I think that you need to understand the balance. It's like yin and yang of your body. And that's why it's yin and yang, but they're together. So it's a high level of balance that you have to dominate.
I agree, and I say we go next question. I think Harv nailed that one.
What about me?
Yeah, you did.
Tony, you did all right.
Well, you gave me the alley-oop.
Yeah. All right, Steve.
Give me the alley-oop. Go ahead.
Is having a big ego a negative trait or a positive trait?
Let's let Mark take this one.
You want me to take this
I want
one?
Mark to take this one. I'm very interested in this one.
So,
Go ahead.
I will take it, and then I'm going to lay it up to Steve this time, then we'll finish up with you at the end. So is having an ego a positive trait or a negative trait is essentially the question. I look at that and go, okay, I've battled with this concept many, many times, right? And I've thought about, well, you can see things and go, well, the ego means terrible, dissolve all ego, have no ego. And yes, I agree with that to a degree. But then at the same time, like without any sort of ego, like what sort of push would you have? Like if I don't have an ego to want to enhance this product or this brand, well then if the bigger it gets, the more people you can serve, you know what I mean? Or something along those lines. But there needs to be some sort of egotistical push to have like pride within your brand or pride within your team, pride within your culture. And I do think that would be defined as ego. So
do you want the actual definition of ego?
Yeah.
So the actual definition of ego, and I did not know this, is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
Oh, there we go.
That's it.
Wait, say it again.
A person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
So, and I think a lot of people find self-esteem through their actions, and that needs an egotistical push. So I do not think that we need to have this concept of 0% ego. But now, to finish, and then here comes a layup to you, is I think that you need to be around a group of people, and this goes to the first question about like awareness and thoughts, and Barb, in your case, or friends and that sort of thing. I think you need to have a strong enough support system where you get past that ego, and now it's like a false self-esteem. Like now it's like a fake, like I need platforms to feel secure, or I need materialistic things to feel confident. Then you need people who can grab you if you aren't able to pick up on that, and they need to pull you back. And that's like you see it, they make movies all the time about the band gets big and then all of a sudden the lead singer wants to go off and do their own thing, and then there's a terrible misery and they want to come back to the band. When in reality, like, well, you started out with an egotistical drive to have self-esteem and security of pursuing mastery in your magician mastery work, and then your band does it together, and now your ego has conquered you and you feel like you need to have something more. Ends up in disaster every movie that takes place.
Every single time it ends up in disaster. Harv, I think you did a great job again, but my answer is 100% you need to have an ego. Once again, ego is a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. The reason ego gets a bad rep is for how people portray their ego. So everyone has their thoughts. We think about things. We have emotions. But how do you control your emotions? That's the same with your ego. If I thought everything that I think about myself and said it out loud, people would probably not like being around me as much. Same as Tony, same as Harvey, right? It would be really difficult. You have to understand which things you need to do. A lot of the times, people actually have high insecurities, and so they have this internal ego that they feel like they have to externally tell everybody about. That is where the word ego gets a very bad rep. And I've actually never looked up the definition of ego. So
I've never known that either.
Again, a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. I hope that everyone who's listening has a sense of self-esteem and self-importance. Because without those, you don't have any drive. You don't know who you are. You don't know who you're trying to become.
Where you're going.
Where am I going? It's a purpose. Right. Truthfully, that's really purpose, having self-importance. If you don't know yourself, and that kind of comes back to the first question, or anytime I get questions about like relationships, it's you have to know yourself first. Figure out yourself first so you can help others. So by having an ego, if you do understand how to harness your ego, you can actually help people gain self-esteem, gain self-importance, and learn how to develop their own inner ego. So I would say have an inner ego, not an outer ego, and you will be able to help people around the world.
Best of luck, Tony.
I agree with you. Just think before you talk. That's all I'm going to say. That's all
Think before you talk. Why do you say that, Tom?
Nailed that, Ball.
Just think before you talk.
Think before you talk, because it's inside. Oh, you got 20 minutes or 20 seconds, Tone, if you got anything epic to add.
I got nothing. That was good. You guys nailed it.
Atta baby.
Okay, so this can be in coaching or in your personal life. What common misconception do you hate to hear repeated as fact?
What common misconception do you hate to be repeated as fact? That, for some reason, I'm really. That's a great question. I feel like I can come up with a lot of answers.
I think everyone needs to say their own here.
Okay, so what common misconception that gets stated as fact?
Like, what if people say that really bothers you? So, like, everything's bigger in Texas. You know, people say that as a fact when you're like, you know, it bothers you. So what would that be? I'm just going to talk out loud, folks. This is the first time that I feel like they've stumped the Schwabs.
I feel stumped too.
Think before you talk.
Think before you
Think
talk.
before you talk.
I'm thinking along the lines of land of 10,000 lakes, and we actually have more than 10,000 lakes.
Yeah, or like the Great Lakes are in Michigan.
I have one. Mine is that the best time of year, the best years of your life are when you're in high school. And people say that as fact, and I do not believe that to be true at all.
But don't they say the same thing for college?
I've heard it from
Some
college,
people say that as fact as well.
Yeah.
As fact as well. But the reason that I want to say that I do not believe that as fact is because everyone's a little different, but traditionally you don't know who you are until you're a little bit older and you've had enough experiences to know who you are. Like to have the best years of your life, how could you have the best years of your life if you don't even know who you are? Like it's more the most nostalgic years of your life because you look back and go, I had no responsibility.
Yeah.
I was in the newspaper.
And you're not even
you went to a dance.
you're not even like put together in your brain.
No.
Are you talking like once you're out of college?
I'm saying that when you're older, so I would argue that
Like late 20s?
the simple fact that, well, see, I think it's going to be a little different for everyone. But I don't think, and I hope, that most people do not have the best of the years of their life when they're in high school.
Oh, yeah.
I always think of it as when you're in an era you don't want it to end, but you look at it and you go, oh man, those are the best years of my life in high school. And then you go, oh man, those are also the best years of my life in college. Oh man, my 20s were sick. Oh man, my 30s were tight, you know? And that's how you'd essentially, to your point, it's
Yes.
just wherever you are is where you are.
Yeah, can you be present enough to understand that your life is happening right now in front of you?
Mm-hmm.
I think that most people spend their time thinking about only their future or being nostalgic about their past. And being truly nostalgic, and I'd like for this to be a question about emotions, I do think that being nostalgic truly is one of the best feelings in the entire world when you're emotionally nostalgic. But I do not think, my statement is, anyone who says those are the best times of your life to somebody else, you're a liar. It's not a fact.
Not a fact, Jack.
Good luck. What do you guys got?
What you got there, Tom?
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I guess I like it. This was probably the closest stump to Schwab we've ever had, and I'm still somewhat stumped. I guess my only theory or thought on that is I've always been frustrated with people stating facts in terms of like research or like science or like this is the way it is, because the only thing I know from baseball is that everything that's being taught now is like skill wise is completely different than it was when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And if it's still being taught the same way in 25 years, it probably just won't be. So it's like it's hard for me to ever be like, nah, no.
Ooh, here's another one.
I have one.
Kids don't work hard today.
I hate that.
That's the alley
So
I'm going
okay,
down.
yeah. I wrote a paper about this in college, which we don't need to name it all, but I got a lot of backlash. And the title of my paper was "Leaders These Days," and the first paragraph was saying our comment should say "Leaders these days, not kids these days," because they're the product of the environment that the leaders produced.
And also, kids work extremely hard.
That's the one I'm going with too, then, even though I took a little cop out and agreed with you. But kids these days, I don't like that. I think that's a BS fact.
What about the fact that some people say as a fact that Tony throws physically a football better than Peyton Manning? Just the physical, Peyton Manning lines
true.
up,
Is that
Tony
true?
lines
Is that a
up,
fact?
That's a fact.
and they throw a ball. We're not talking about being a quarterback. We're just talking about a football. Do you see that as fact, Tony?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Comments below.
Hold on. Can I say my part?
I don't know. I think we're over.
Nope, you can't. We're over. Nolan,
I had something.
is that everything?
Yeah.
I had something so good.
All right. What's your favorite color?
Huh?
What's your favorite color?
Red? Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Okay. Everybody have a great weekend.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.